Instagram and Facebook. So I'll just wait for people to come in and see if we can get anybody that wants to watch, and then I can tell you a bit about what we're planning. If you want to let me know, how's your day been? How's everybody getting on? We're still in lockdown. My hair is wild. I'm fasting. It's Ramadan. It's day 6 of Ramadan, but actually it's not been too bad at all. Hi Tahid, hi Bilal, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, my hair is out of control. I've got two options. I either wait until my hairdresser can get back to work, or I go for clippers. Just go, take it all off. But I think I'm reluctant to do that, to be honest. So I'm just going to let it grow, and hopefully my hairdresser will be back to work in a few weeks, and I can go and see him and get my hair cut. That would be good. No, I'm not going to. I'm not taking the clippers to it. Yeah, some suggestions coming in. Thanks, guys. No, so today, following on from the Facebook and Instagram lives over the last few days, the plan is to carry on, and I'm going to go through how to drill an osteotomy. I create the hole or the path for us to place our dental implant. So that's the discussion today. So I have got a number of things in front of me. I mean, the other day I showed you a model of a dental implant, but this is a real life implant, and I would just want to show you, obviously, for comparison. Yeah. So when I showed you the dental implant model the other day, this gives you a good, sort of idea of what actually, a dental implant in terms of what it looks like in real life and what the size it is. And this is a 15mm implant, so it's quite a long implant, and usually we place on average somewhere in the region from 6 to 12mm implants, usually the majority of mine, but here I've got a 15mm implant, and just gives you an idea of the size. So what I've got also in front of me is I've got a model. I've set up my surgical motor for use because I've been missing it so much. I've not been able to do any dentistry at all for the last sort of 5 to 6 weeks, so I decided to set up my motor and at home, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk you through the drilling sequence to place a dental implant, and just to give you an idea of the stepwise approach, what's involved in making an osteotomy to then place your dental implant. So that's the plan. If you have any questions, please pop them on. Remember, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, happy to take questions. To give you an update as well, next Thursday evening I'm doing a live teaching event where it's focused for the dentist starting off in dental implants or want to get into implants. So just going over a management of the edentulous space and looking into sort of how to assess and plan potentially for a dental implant. So that's the plan next week, Thursday. If you want to register for that webinar, that free webinar, if you could pop on your email address on the comments, or PM me your email address, I'll add you to the list. It's limited numbers because I want to try to make it as interactive as possible. So if you want to be on that live Zoom webinar next Thursday at 7:30, then I need your email address. So just to recap, the plan is to talk about how it is that we place a dental implant and how to create an osteotomy. And really, it's about telling you about a stepwise approach, and there's a reason why we use each burr. And as I've told you before, I use BioHorizons commonly. So this is a BioHorizons surgical kit, and it can seem quite daunting, all these components and little bits, and the mind's like, well, what's going on? There's all these bits, what do I use? But honestly, we were all in that position. It all seemed a bit daunting at one point, but over time and actually quite quickly, You get to understand what each component's for, and it's really not as bad as it looks. So although there's a lot of bits, it's really not as bad as it seems. And here I sort of highlighted the other day about color coding. A lot of it is related to the different sizes of implants that we use and the different lengths. So for instance, the purple indicates a 3mm wide dental implant. The yellow indicates a 3.5. The green is a 4.5, yeah, wide implant. And then the 5 is a 5.5. But don't really use these two very often. It's usually, yellow. That's the kind of the line that I'm going down usually with implants in the Bi-Horizon systems. But it's all color coded, and it's all bits depending on what implant you're planning to pay. So what I want to say, it seems daunting, it's not. And actually there's a lot of bits in this kit that don't actually come with the kit, and I've added them in. And that's I sort of think it's useful to touch on it. We're very much led to follow what an implant system or implant company tells us to do, but we've got to think wider than that, bigger than that, and you've got to be much more flexible in your thinking and your approach to dental implant treatment. So one of the things I want to touch upon is I like to mix and match. So I like to take the best of other systems and bring them into my daily dental practice. So one thing is that I'd like to highlight is, now this is an osteotomy explorer or a depth gauge, and this is made by Straumann. But I'm using Bi-Horizons implants and the majority of the time Bi-Horizons materials. But what I do like to do is try to pick up things from other implant companies and bring them into my practice. So maybe that be my surgical kit, but this is a great tool. I really like it, and it's much better. I don't have the Bi-Horizons Pro, but this one from Straumann is much better, and this comes with the Straumann BLX kit. The other thing I've also added onto this kit that doesn't come with the kit is the precision burr. So you have to often buy this separately. It's a precision burr, and certainly it's an essential burr. I'll just show you on Instagram as well. It's an essential burr that I use when I'm creating my osteotomy, and it's always the second burr I use, and I'll show you that. So this is a precision burr, and this is the one that are commonly made by Nobel, Bi-Horizons, all the companies, and it's got a laser marking, if you can see that, and that laser marking is 10mm. So this is a crucial burr, and it tells us a lot of information, and I'll go into that, and the feedback you get when you use this burr. And then I also want to point out, this is the Straumann BLX precision burr, which I absolutely love. It's a lovely burr to use, a really nice instrument, and it comes in a long and short. And when I do pterygoid implants, it really is great for me to use at the back of the mouth, and it's really nice and sharp. So it goes through the poor quality bone in the tuberosity. It just pierces through that without me having to press the pedal on the motor, and it hits the hard cortical bone of the palatine bone and the pterygoid plate, and then I can pierce through. So it's a great burr, and I have that in my kits as well. So this is the Straumann BLX Lance burr. Okay, so that's what I would say. So what I want to sort of get across is, develop your kit, your implant kit, get to know it. You've got to understand how to use it, so you're not sort of messing about when you're actually potentially under stress when you're placing your implant. It's really, really important. So this was the kit. I'll just show you again. Again, it seems like a load of bits, but actually, honestly, it really is simple. And once you start placing a few implants, it all becomes really, really easy to use. Right, so I've got a model here, and what I want to do is talk through how to place an implant, just roughly as best as I can on the sort of current AV media system I have, which is just my telephones, and I'm upstairs in my office in my loft. So we've got that, so we can do a quick flap. There you go. Only if it was that easy on patient. So I've raised the flap. So what I'm going to do is just show you the stepwise protocol that I follow generally when I go to place a dental implant, and then I've got a real implant here to place into this model, and that's what I'll do. So the first thing first is I always start with the rose head bar. So this is a 4, I'll press it, you can see it spinning. So this is either a 4 or a 5mm diameter rose head bar. This is always the first bar I use when I place a dental implant. Now there's a really excellent YouTube video by Bill Schaefer, who's a fantastic and very knowledgeable implant dentist, and it's on YouTube, and he talks about why you should always start your osteotomy with the round bar, and this acts as an anti-skid. So starting with the round bar acts as an anti-skid. So that was always the first one I use. So if we can make it out, I always use and I always just make a mark. So that's a mark that I'm making where my planned osteotomy is. And it's just a small indentation in the bone. So a small indentation in the bone to just mark, and then I can let go, and the round bar acts as an anti-skid. So and it also then lets you check, are you in the right position, i.e. mesiodistally within the gap. Yeah, so it's always the first bar I use, it's the round bar. Then, making a mess. Then the second bar is always the lance or the precision bar. Always the lance and the precision bar. Now you've got to allow for some, obviously, this is a plastic jaw and it's very different, drilling into plastic bone than a patient's real bone. So this is it's a different situation. But the next bar, what this does is it gives you feedback. It gives you that tactile feedback as to the hardness of the bone. So if you're aware of D1, D2, D3, D4 classification, the lance bar, which should be really sharp, when you push it through, it gives you that feedback and allows you to then think about, am I going to have to fully prep the osteotomy, or can I just under prep it a little because the bone's soft? And often in the maxilla, the bone is certainly of lesser quality than the mandible, and you should be able to sort of pierce this through a little bit. So first of all, before I put my foot on the pedal, I'm always just pushing through and seeing if the bar will create its own path, and then I gently put the foot on the pedal and I create the path. Okay, and I've got my anti-skid and I do that, and it's really hard, this drilling into the plastic, but it's not that hard in real life. And just to let you know, my motor is set at 800 revs per minute, but it should be a bit higher. For this part, it should be a bit higher. Okay, but I don't want to keep moving and changing it. So that's the next one. And then what you can do, so I've done the round bar, and then I've done the lance bar, and then what you can do is you can have a look and check. You can start looking to see if you're if you're too palatal or too buccal, because you can still correct the osteotomy, so you can check mesiodistally how you are, and so that really allows it. And then sometimes it's a good idea if you want, especially if you're starting off, just take an x-ray to see how you are in terms of your path, that you're not angling mesially or distally or potentially touching any of the roots. So that's the second drill. So the first drill was the round bar, then the lance, and then we move on to the 2mm twist drill. And obviously we've planned, from a CBCT, we've planned what length and diameter of implant we're planning, or if we're going to plan to bone graft, etc. So the next is the 2mm twist drill, and again already, now this drill should really follow the path that's been created. So this drill should follow the path that we've created with the round bar and then the lance bar. And so I can do that, and I can start to do. And often in the anterior region, if you're worried that you're going to hit, you know, the head of the drill is going to hit the other teeth, what you can do is add on a drill extension. So that's what I've done here. I've added in a drill extension, okay? And then you can try again. Okay, right, good. So here you can see where we're at with this, okay? And often I will take an X-ray at this stage. I don't often take an X-ray at the lance burr stage, but when I've done the 2mm twist drill, I always take an X-ray. Now, what if your implant's going off at an angle? How can you correct it? Now, the incorrect way is to just keep going and not correct your osteotomy, because as you increase the size of the osteotomy, all that you're doing is exaggerating that inaccuracy you've made into your osteotomy. So what you need to do at this stage is, if you're not happy and you think your osteotomy is off direction, you need to go backwards. Okay, you either start the whole drilling sequence again, i.e. the round bar, the lance bar, and then the 2mm twist drill, or the alternative option is you can use a Linderman burr. And I'm just checking if I have one here. I thought I did. No, I don't have a Linderman burr in this kit. You can use a Linderman burr to correct the osteotomy. Direction of the osteotomy, you can use what we call a Linderman burr. Otherwise, you have to go back to the start, the round bar, the lance, and the two. Okay, so we can go up, and we'll go to the next drill in the sequence in the bi-horizon system. It is the 2.5. So we use the 2mm twist drill, and now we're going to go to the 2.5. And really, okay, good. So we go to 2.5. Then we can go to the next one in the step is a 3.2. We'll go to 3.2. Good. Good, you can all see that. And what I forgot to mention is what I will do at each stage of my osteotomy prep is I will use my osteotomy explorer, the blunt end usually, and just make sure my osteotomy is all within bone. So just gently I explore and I make sure that the whole osteotomy is surrounded by bone, just nice and gently with my blunt end of my probe. Okay, so I know with these plastic models you need to over prepare, but if this was a real jawbone, then at this point, after those drills, I would have placed this dental implant. Okay, this is about I think it's a 4.2mm wide implant that this would have seated nicely into the jawbone. But I know that the plastic jaw, there's not much flexibility in it, so I'm just going to over prep a little, and then I'm going to place the implant and show you what we use. So last one. Okay. What you want to avoid doing when you're doing your osteotomies is a pumping action. Okay, you just want to go in nicely and out, in nicely and out. Okay, I think that's important. Okay, so I've done that. Let's see how this goes in. So we've got a couple of options. So again, I'm just going to reset. Okay, so I just had to change the program because obviously we're not putting the implant in at 800 revs. Okay, so there's a carrier. So one of the components within the toolkit that you've got from bi-horizons has a carrier, and then we gently put the implant in. So it's going in about that speed. So it's going on quite slowly, and that's set at 25 revs per minute. Okay, so nice and gently we can put the implant into the osteotomy. Just like that. And see that? It's torquing out, and that's what often happens. That's because it's in one plastic bone and it's getting quite hard. So that's what I'll do. I'll often put it in with the surgical handpiece first of all until it torques out, and I usually the motor set at 35, and then I will move on to the hand. Then I'll move on to the hand torque wrench, and then so this is the hand torque wrench. It's not a variable hand torque wrench. I can't tell what value of torque I'm putting onto the implant. And it fits in, and so what you can do is start, ratcheting that implant home. Okay, simple as that. And what I'll often do is just ratchet the implant in, and then if I feel the torque's high, it's quite tight, then I'll just give it a couple of turns anti-clockwise and make sure I'm happy with the depth and the position. Okay, it's a bit tricky for me to do that, obviously high up in the air when I can't really see it, but I think it gives you a good idea. It's a bit palatal. But it gives you a good idea, and what I wanted to get across to you was just the different steps that I take in preparing the osteotomy, and it is very much a structured approach. I go through the round bar, the lance, and then stepwise through the drilling sequence, depending on the feedback I've got, i.e. what is the quality of the bone of the jaw, and always the quality of the bone in the maxilla varies from the mandible. Often the maxilla is poorer quality bone, it's softer, and you often don't need to prep as aggressively as you potentially need to do in the mandible. Okay, so I'll answer some questions because I know there were some questions coming in. Thank you for all the kind comments. Okay, someone's asking about BiHorizons and that it's one of the popular brands, and it's been around for a long time. What I would say is about using cheaper implant systems. It's not about using the cheapest implant. It's about support from your local rep. It's about product support and support in developing as a clinician, which is really important. And I'm very much always use one of the leading implant systems. I've used Nobel in the past. I use Straumann at times, but I like to know that I'm using a good premium product. It's that simple test. If you're, what would you use on yourself, or what would you use on a family member that you cared about? You'd want the best. So it's the same. I try to use a premium product for my patients. I don't use any cheap alternative. I don't use any replica products. I use the real deal and the real components all the time. Okay, any questions more on Instagram? Great, thank you for all the kind comments. Right, I think there was a few questions here on Facebook. Just go through them. Do you prefer hand torque or machine torque and the implant, please? Okay, so yeah, I will often start, just like I demonstrated, I'll often start with the handpiece and then move to hand torque. That's my sort of go-to, that's how I do it. Okay, great. Lovely, thanks a lot for the comments. Just 20 minutes, and I think that's enough. If there's any other suggestions, let me know. I will upload this video to my YouTube channel later on today. And just a reminder, I will be doing a live teaching Zoom webinar next Thursday for those dentists looking to start off in dental implants. If you could comment with your email address or drop me a PM, I'll add you to the list. Otherwise, everybody stay safe, have a great weekend, take care, bye.